Well, guys, 2 more chapters to go in the My Teacher Fried My Brains. Nope, My Teacher Glows in the Dark, which is the third book in the 4-part series of My Teacher is an Alien by Bruce Covell. Chapter 20 is called Hulan's Wish. I didn't even program the elevator since I figured the aliens would send me wherever they wanted me to go. Somewhat to my surprise, I found myself back at Croc Docks. Hulan lay on the table, rigid and unmoving, his glow dimmer than ever. "How is he?" I whispered. "Not good," said Croc Dog. I stood for a moment, staring at my friend, my teacher. "Can I do anything for him?" I asked quietly. "No. I'll be back," I said. Moving quietly across the room, I instructed the U-Rat to send me back to the communication chamber where I had first made contact with Duncan. Glancing over my shoulder, I feeling guilty for leaving, even though there was nothing I could do, I stepped back through the wall. What had happened to Hulan when he tried to make mental contact with me? Was this my fault? Was my human brain so poisonous it had done something terrible to his mind? Once I reached the communication chamber, it took me a while to make contact with Duncan again. I wondered if he was still in the force field. After all, even though it had been only a couple of hours by my time since I spoke to him, the ship had made a space shift since then. How much time had passed on Earth? I fiddled with the controls until I made contact with Duncan Dougal, my old enemy, my new ally. As I began to fine-tune the connection, it occurred to me that if this Creeblum character they had mentioned had put Duncan in the force field, it might not be a good idea for me to say too much until I knew whether or not she was there. "Duncan," I thought, "is there anybody there?" "Just you and me." "Good." I finished focusing the connection so we could see each other. "Listen, things are heating up out here. The aliens are planning something. I don't know what, but it's big. You have to get word to the government." Duncan was explaining why he thought that was a stupid idea when he heard someone coming up the attic stairs. "Pretend I'm not here," I said desperately. "I can't be caught talking to you like this. I'll try to hold on, but I'll break the connection if I have to." "I understand," said Duncan, "but the person who showed up at the top of the stairs was no menace. Well, aside from the fact that the sight of her did something strange to my insides. It was Susan Simmons, and I had suddenly realized I had missed her more than I had guessed. I sighed. Why couldn't the aliens have hooked me into her brain? With the U-Rat to help me, I told Susan how to free Duncan from the force field. Once she had him out, I was a little surprised to find that Duncan and I were still in contact. When he said that he was surprised as well, I replied, "Of course, your head is what we call wetware, an organic machine. At the moment, you happen to be one of the most powerful communication devices in the galaxy, Duncan. Now listen, I've got something important to tell you. Some important stuff to tell you. There are..." Bless me. Thank you. The last words came out... Oh. "There are big things happening up here, and you need to..." Oh no! The last words came out as a shout of terror, because a pair of hands had just grabbed me by the back. "You shouldn't do things like that, Peter," said Bless me again. "You shouldn't do things like that, Peter," said Broxholm, turning me around and picking me up so that I had to stare straight into his huge orange eyes. "It makes it harder for us to trust you." I wondered how much Broxholm had heard of what I had just told Duncan and Susan. Then I realized he couldn't have heard any of it, since it all had been done inside my head. "The council wants to see you again," said Broxholm. Carrying me across the room, he stepped through the transcendental elevator and back into the council chamber. "What do you know about the fall of Hulan?" asked the sea-green alien as soon as I was standing before the council again. He seemed sterner than ever, maybe even angry. I hesitated. He tried to connect himself to my mind," I said. "It happened to him then." The other members of the council stirred restlessly. I got the sense I had said or done something wrong. "Hulan was a fool," said the alien with the purple tentacles. Something inside me snapped. I had had enough of their superiority, their all-powerful lording it over me. I liked Hulan. No, I loved Hulan. He had been kind and gentle to me, taught me things, and cared for me. "Don't you say that!" I cried, rushing toward the alien. I suppose it wasn't the best demonstration of how Earthlings might be expected to control themselves. It didn't make any difference. I ran right through him without touching him. I stopped, turned around, blinked in dismay. I walked back toward the alien, waving my arms. They passed back and forth through his purple body. Broxholm, I cried. What's going on? He looked startled. Did you really think they were here? He asked. Then he blinked and said, Do you realize who these beings are? The people in charge of the ship? I asked uncertainly. Broxholm's nose twitched. The images of the other 8 aliens responded with their various forms of laughter. These are the chief leaders of the Interplanetary Council, said Broxholm. I ran back to his side, stunned at what he was saying. I had just tried to punch out one of the rulers of the galaxy. For a kid who considers himself an intellectual, this was not a high point of my emotional life. What are they doing here? I whispered. Or not doing here. I added, trying to salvage some dignity with a little humor. We generally meet via holographic projection, said a red alien who looked sort of like a pale seaweed. A pile of seaweed. It is the simplest way. Oh, it is simplest that way, as it allows us to stay on our own planets and yet remain in contact. That way, we can hold our meetings anywhere we wish. As to your defense to Hulan, said the purple alien I had tried to clobber, the emotion is admirable, even if your way of expressing it is deplorable and totally typical of your kind. For a moment I had a terrible feeling they were going to blow up the planet because I had lost my temper. That was more guilt than I wanted to deal with. However, you misunderstand our relationship with your mentor. Hulan was once a member of this council. He chose to resign to pursue other interests. We have the utmost respect for him. We merely think he is wrong-headed. He has sent us a message, said the shadow. I fear it may be the last message we will ever have from him. I felt a lump in my throat begin to form in my throat. Had being in touch with my brain killed him? Were there people of Earth that terrible? Ever so gloomy, said Red Seaweed to the shadow. Hulan may yet rejoin us. May or may not, replied the shadow. None of the less, while you know that I favor the destruction of the earth, I am willing to hold back in favor of what may be Hulan's last request. What was his last request? I asked, my voice trembling. That we perform one final study of the earth before we make our decision, said the shadow. Personally, I think this is an enormous waste of time. Oh, enormous. Enormous waste of time. But out of respect for a fallen comrade, I accede to his wishes, which specifically call for you and Broxholm to return to Earth, and with the help of the agent who's already in place there, file a final report. Those in favor? Asked Seagreen. The vote was unanimous. The end. Chapter 21 is the last chapter. See you there. Make sure to subscribe. Also, guess what? Only like 10% of you guys are subscribed to occasionally watch my videos. And that means that 90 of you aren't. So go down and click that subscribe button. It's free and you can cancel whenever you want. If you don't want to be subscribed anymore, you just do, and then you're not subscribed. And it's free. It doesn't cost anything. I'll see you next time.